we're going to talk about something that is called the law of reflection. And so when we're talking about specular highlights and trying to control those, we need to understand this thing called the law of reflection. And we're going to do this, if we have time. We have Lex, she's going to wear some really awesome glasses, and we're going to see if we can control these things. So the way this works is when light comes from a direction and it hits a flat surface, we're assuming that this is an absolutely flat surface. Let's say this comes in at a certain angle, and it's measured by this line right here. This is a 90-degree line to the flat surface. This is called the normal line. This right here is called the incident ray. So this is light coming in. So if this light comes in at 36 degrees, it will always be reflected. So this is called the reflected ray. It will always be reflected at the exact same angle, always. And so if this comes in at 36 degrees, it's going to be reflected at 36 degrees. And this is called the angle of reflection. The angle of incidence is what degree it's coming in according to the normal line, 36 degrees, reflected at 36 degrees. And so once you know that on a flat surface, you know that if this light here is casting a highlight here, if you move this light to 50 degrees, the reflection is also going to move to 50 degrees. So if it was causing problems here when it was lower, you just move that light and both things will move. And so when you start having reflections on eyeglasses and things like that, you just need to move the light and it will move the reflection as well. So if the light is low, the reflection is going to be low. Light is high, reflection is going to be low, right? Yeah, totally opposite. The problem is, if this is a convex or a concave, or if it's got texture to it, then light doesn't just hit and reflect, it hits and scatters. And that's where you get issues of really hard to control specular highlights, is when it hits something that has a textured surface, because it doesn't, there's a new law called the angle of refraction, which there was no way I was going to draw out that. But basically it hits and it scatters in a scientific way that's crazy and we don't need to understand it. But this will help us get there, right? So Lex, we're going to have you come out and bring the glasses of choice. And can I see those glasses before you use them? And then do we have a couple other pairs? So these glasses, by the way, when we look at them, they are not flat. Okay, they're not flat pieces of glass. And so we have a couple other pairs of glasses here that we borrowed from somebody's dad. If you can, yeah, thank you. And you can see that these are much more convex than these. And so sometimes you'll have maybe glasses that look like this, very nice, and they're causing you all kinds of problems with glare, and these don't. And the reason is these are flatter than these, and so the angle of reflection on these glasses is different than the angle of reflection on these glasses. So just understand that. In fact, I think, John, we were going to do a demo on one of our first CreativeLives to try to control reflection in your glasses, and we couldn't get a reflection in his glasses because of the way that the glasses were. And do you remember that?
They might have had a coating on them too.
Yeah, and also a coating to do some things. So we'll do our best to get you to have nice glare. All right, are you ready to put those on? Ready? Yes. So I'd like to check out a book. And all right. You have late fees, young man. All right, so we are going to turn on our modeling light here. And then, John, what I'd like you to do is we're going to see if we can actually get a glare. So right now we have none. So I want you to move that up and down for me. So it needs to come down, I believe, right now. Let's look through here. And so, Lex, if you look straight, there you go. Perfect, perfect. Okay, let me meter that. Whoa, that is not what I wanted. There, that's what I wanted. Okay, so I'm going to meter this. We have this at 10, F10, perfect. So I'll just take a quick shot at F10, and I'll zoom this in so we can see clearly. Chin up just a hair, there you go. Okay, on this shot, we will be able to clearly see that we have a nice glare in her glasses. Now watch this. Yeah, not from over there, but from here. So watch this, chin way down. Perfect. And now we'll see this second shot, because her head moved, the angle of reflection moved, and the glare went away. So let's have you look maybe over this way and then eyes back toward me just a bit. Perfect. And we're seeing that this glare is changing based on where those glasses are. So sometimes it's as easy as saying, can you just tilt your chin down or something like that. But let's just say that she can't do that because of some reason. So let's have you straight and then chin up just a hair. Okay, so we're going to have that glare once again. And then to fix this glare, all we'll have to do is I'll ask John to raise the light just a smidgen. So I'm going to look through here. And then Lex, if you'll just keep your head right there. Yep, and then raise that up just a little bit more. Keep going, keep going, keep going. A little bit more. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. And now what we have, and we should have remetered that, that eliminated that because the angle changed. It also changed the shadows. It changed all kinds of stuff. So it's sort of a trade-off no matter what you're doing. You'll solve one problem and create two other problems. You'll solve those two problems, you'll create another problem. So what I try to do when I'm trying to solve for issues like this is go for the simplest solution. So what I would have done with this, if we had a glare that was annoying, I just would have asked Lex to tilt her head a little bit to see if we could have gotten a pose that worked, because you saw that that did work. And then if we got a pleasing look, done. But if it was just something that was really annoying, maybe a big softbox that was always casting a reflection, then we would start working with raising that light. And then when we had shadows, then we'd start working with adding in a reflector or maybe more diffused light. Yes?
We lost the specularity in the eyeballs.
Yes.
So do we add this post-production, or do we, trade off glare in the glasses and remove that post-production but have the specular highlights on that?
Yeah, on this, the specular highlight is tiny. You can just barely see it there, and you can still see some of the edge of the feather. You also notice that the specular highlights here on the glasses are showing up, and right there. We've got specular highlights there and on the lips. It's all changed when we move that. So what I would do in a situation like this is let's have you lower that light again. I almost never add, well, I never add specular highlights in post-production. Either they're there or they're not for me. Okay. So we have a little bit lower, John. Keep going. Let's go way, way down. Keep going down. Keep going down. Go, go, go. There you go. Yep, just like that. I want to show you one other thing that you can do to solve for this. And instead of removing the specular highlight using an angle of reflection, we can change the specular highlight by changing the source of our light. So here we have a very, very small light source, and that specular highlight is very defined and it's very hard. So it's going to be showing up here in the glasses again. There it is. And so let's take that off. Yep. Take that off. Oops. Yeah, trying to save your face. So what we can do is, instead of having a small specular highlight like this, what if that specular highlight covered her entire glasses? What if we sort of spread it out? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to throw this softbox on there, and we're going to see what happens when we change the specularity of our light. No, these things are crazy, aren't they? Crazy. Yeah, that'll work. So now what we'll do is we're going to change the shape of that. So if you can meter this for me. And I'm going to do this, John. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do front light. Raise it up just a hair. That. Making the effective size of this light much larger. And we'll get it just a little bit brighter. There we go. Meter that for me.
6.3.
6.3, and look straight ahead. Perfect. So what we've done is we've changed the shape of the specular highlight, and I pulled this back a little bit to try to keep this hard. So now we have a totally different highlight. It looks worse, I think. And then we'll do something even crazier. We'll move this close, close, close. So I'm going to try to get this as close as possible. 9. Okay. 9. And I can't focus that close. There we go. Perfect. Just like that. Okay. You can see that by bringing it closer, it's changed that just a hair. Just a hair. Oh, and I didn't change my aperture to 9. But, you know, once you meter, you actually have to apply it. But you can see that these are getting a little bit softer, and if we could get that even a larger softbox, then this would start filling up more of these glasses. So you can do, with product photography, that's what you do, is you just keep getting this larger and softer. And so eventually what would happen is these specular highlights, you'd be able to see through them. And so it would sort of make these a little bit darker, but you could see through. And you would keep these specular highlights. For me, it's change the angle and then work with that. But you can see there's a bunch of different ways that we can work with those specular highlights. And it's something that once you start seeing them, you know, we focus so much on the shadows and informing that. A lot of times you just forget about these specular highlights. But in a portrait like this, the specular highlights will make or break that portrait.
You solve the problem.
Oh yeah, or she could turn the glasses off. The other thing we could do, and this is something that John does actually. Let's say we wanted to emulate a window. We're going to pretend that this is a window. So go ahead and put those glasses back on. And John, I'll have you move this back and forth depending on what we look like. So let's say that she is now, I don't know, an office worker, and we want to make it look like she has a window next to her. Okay. And then bring that down, John. Keep going down. Keep going. There you go. Perfect. And then chin up just a little bit. Cool. All right, I'll meter this really quickly. 9 is exactly right. This is the last shot of the day for this, not of the day. Of the day is the last shot of the day. So for this, what we've done is, if you wanted to make it look like a medical imaging magazine where the person is working next to some like science equipment and we have like a light over here, we want to make it look intentionally like this is coming from the window or the thing, you can actually add specular highlights to emulate a certain look. And you could also take this and put some tape over it or put some black, it's called a gobo, but you can make this look like a certain shape. And that would show up also in the specular highlights.